may I select to be praised to whom all praise are due is the Ethiopian World Federation Incorporated Women Auxiliary presents Empress Sadi Saunders.
Greetings and blessings on this wonderful and beautiful Sunday evening. This is Sadi Gomez of the Ethiopian World Federation Incorporated, Local 26, coming to you live and alive. It's a wonderful Sunday evening, and let all be blessed. Let Jah be praised this evening. It is indeed a wet Sunday evening, a bit rainy, a bit sulky for some, but it is the holidays. Turned out at the holidays, Memorial Day, it's raining and it's wet. This is something that sometimes happens, but for most people, they have big plans for picnics, for parties, for barbecues. And this would have been a really sultry moment when it's no fun having a barbecue out in the rain. But we are in studios, we're indoors, and we are always warm here. It's the warm place where you can bring all your happy moments, your sad moments, but we know for sure you're going to leave feeling very joyous because this is what we do on a Sunday evening. We do a little more as well. As we jokingly say, we have a mat, and what we do, we examine the things that are placed under the mat, the things that people normally place under a mat. We take it out, we examine it, and sometimes, and most times, we put it back. It's good for us that we do so for the things that are happening. So much is happening in and around us, so much is going on and off in and around us, and we are here to examine some of the things. As we say, we look at the news basically and to see what's really happening. But today in the news, I just got a light glimpse of what's happening in the news. And some things could be very, very tragic. Some things could be very comical. And some things, as we know, right now, a lot of things are so very scripted. And then, of course, we have AI as well with their part of the news. We are wondering what is really true. Unless it is happening live in the moment, then we can tell, yes, that probably is true. Yes or no. But just before we started at the 6 o'clock news, 6 o'clock, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, about an hour ago, I saw something almost tragic, almost comical. A hand glider, a female hand glider, got in an accident with an airplane. But it's just like the wing just snipped a little bit. She was able to parachute. Thank God she made it to the ground. She crashed to the ground, but it was in some grass. So this is things that you believe could happen, but yes, it did happen. But then it happened. Thank God it was just a few inches away from the tragic. But these are some of the things that we see happening. And this was just a bit of the news. Also, I don't know how much of us is watching the news and paying attention because there's so much distractions going on at the moment. And also there's football on Sundays, there's basketball from the night before. The New York team is doing very well. But so far in the news, there was a shooting at the White House. Yes, about 6 shots rang off, I believe. The shooter was killed. I have not yet seen the picture of the shooter to know what he looked like. His name was given. I believe he's somewhere in his 20s. I don't want to say exactly, but he's somewhere early 20s. As I said, I have not seen a photo of the shooter. I did not Google it or anything. It was not disclosed at the moment the news was given. And the result was the young man was shot and killed. So this is another attempt at the executives at the White House. I don't know exactly who he was going after. It was not stated, but we know in the White House, we know who sits there, the president, the vice president, and we're not sure what names were called, but it was, of course, the administration being led by Mr. Trump. However, the situation, thank God, no one was hurt. No one was, no, just a shooter was killed. I believe someone else was wounded. I'm not sure. So this news we do have to follow up. So this is still happening. It's quite fresh. It only happened about less than 24 hours ago. Much people don't know about it, but I barely just happened to see it as I was prepared to get in the studio to say something for what's happening. So as we look towards so many attempts, real or imagined, being placed on this administration or directly to the president at present, Mr. Donald Trump, we are seeing a leader whereby, you know, how stories play, because story time, we learn so much from story time, but we are seeing a leader where if you hear something long enough and a lot of it and different circumstances, some part of our brain began to normalize the situation. So we are hearing, we are seeing these various attempts made on one person, and eventually a numbing feeling would come towards this whole event. And then the event would be able to materialize and manifest itself. And that would always be in a kind of, it was a movie moment. So some things are being applied, and we see strategically how the games are being played, because mind games are quite different from the scrapple in the park. It's much more thought out. It's much more strategically placed on the minds of those who are gullible enough to absorb such information you call the news. For entertainment purposes, they sit by their desks and they feed you all that they would like you to know that you can regurgitate at times. And then what happens? So we see the way the mind works as words and information is placed strategically at various times, at various events to create a scenario in the mind. By now, after the next attempt, we will believe that the president was already assassinated. Until somebody tell you he was not, and you say, well, I thought he was already, because of the way the news is going to play in the mind. This brings me to a point where there was a particular actor, Sinbad. You know, I don't know why, mysteriously, he came out of being for one time, and for many years, people said he was dead. Because that story played along so much until after a few years he popped up again. And they start thinking it was quite a mystery. Maybe it was. Maybe it was who knows, a glitch in the matrix. But things do happen, and words and pictures and events are placed systematically. And we see the matrix for what it is for some of us who are eyes wide open. And we see how things are playing off as well. So we look forward to the movie and it as it plays along. So until we gotta sit until the very end of the movie, of course, and then we'll know if the star boy what happened. So we would have an interest as we go along. And these days, no one is really allowed to talk about a movie like that. It's one of those types, because you can get thrown out of the theater if you start talking too much about the movie. So Everybody got it. That's right. That's what we do with such things. So, but we are here, we are here, we are open, we love our studio audience, we love them to chime in. We don't have a particular topic this evening, except we have the news and how the news plays on our mind as to the way events are placed. Now, what is to happen will happen because it has already happened. And we just have to now wait for the manifestation of the thing because it already played out before it is manifest in the physical realm. So there's so many things that are yet placed within our realm that we don't quite understand as yet until we see the full manifestation of it. So meanwhile, what we're looking at small disjointed pieces of information. We do have, uh, there is an Iran war going on with the American and Israel, and that is also a little bit weary on our mind. We almost want it to end, but yet the end has not come. It probably is not even close, but we are yet waiting because of the disjuncted piece of material that we heard that's called the news. What do we believe at this point, or what is really happening? But something is going on. We're not quite sure. This is how we are feeling kind of this week. We are seeing things out there. We look at even the civil rights movement to see if it's being threatened somewhere in Alabama. Things are not sitting so right. And yet, what do we do? We are watching, as you know, the midterm elections are drawing closer and closer. We see the political aspect, although we don't do too much politics on this side, but we just like to see what's in and around us. So we try to ask in ourselves what is going on. Summer is approaching, because the warm days remind us that it is approaching. We have had already 2 to 3 90-degree weathers, so 90-degree temperature within the week. So we know that summer is approaching. And what's also approaching is a hunter virus that supposedly some people on a ship had a cruise ship had some cases and they had to be taken off. New York and Americans were brought back to America. They're probably in a camp somewhere where they can safely wait out their period that this virus could be contained. So we know they would be among the general public so far. So we look at this to see is there a possible lockdown again in the making because of such a terrible virus, and where did it come from? Is it the eggs that are hatching now from the jibby jabbers that some people, got or was forced to accept? What is it going on at this time? We know health wise, we see a lot of people struggling with their health and fighting to know is the only thing that is really of importance. So that I am seeing happening a lot as well. But the unanswered questions as to where did this new virus come from? How deadly is this virus? Is it being played down? Is it spreading? What we do see, however, in public places, people are back wearing their masks. It has not been a general announcement like the last time when you had that C-19 business where you were forced to wear it. Now I see people taking it upon themselves to do so. So this is what we are watching in and around us as far as what's going on. As we say, politics, we just, go over it very slightly because unless it's something that has hit the news where we must discuss. But we like to talk and decide events that are truthful, and we bring the people who have such events. And as you know, we would remember again uh, David Wilcock as we speak of people who brought events for us to refresh our mind. And there are not much people like that anymore. They are slowly disappearing. And before they all go away, I hope new soldiers can rise up. But there are certain people who have left some information, especially Mr. David Wilcock, that has been so profound in our mind. It brought us to thinking. And just to think the way he seemingly passed away, it leaves us even a greater mystery as to when he was alive. And he was quite a mysterious man. Also quite entertaining, quite refreshing, and educational. So there's some greats that we are definitely going to miss because conversation and stimulators, intellectual stimulation, is so hard to find these days with the all OMGs and LOLs and you know, it's abbreviation at its best, but there is a great joy and a beauty in conversation. When conversation can flow and you has the use of words, I guess, flowing through your head and then coming onto your lips and rolling off your tongue, there's a great joy in having conversation using words with meaning, of course, meaningful words. But the abbreviation that has taken place now within our, I should say, young people, imagine, I have reached that time to say that, but this is really lack of conversation. It's abbreviation, it's shortened, and it also plays with your short attention span, young people. That's why every OMG, that's how fast and short and meaningful life would be. No, so you ought to engage again in conversation using proper words and not abbreviation. So we speak of conversation, we are speaking about, greats that we listen to within their conversation. So we talk about grace. I really miss Credo Mutswa. And, as we speak of conversation, is one great. And we should all at some point, read something or listen to some of his work. You know, he has been asleep now with the ancestors for a while now. But there were the years that I was, here to enjoy while he was still in the flesh and among us, his great words coming. And thank God for the internet and his family and for the intellectuals who have preserved his work as it was just yesterday. And of course, speaking of conversation and of greats, one could not forget Malachi C. York, of which it has been certain people who, as I said, really profound information and conversation that would stimulate you, but yet rest in your heart, resonate with you, but stay with you for a very long time. I mean, when they said some things you carry it with you, definitely. Because in conversation and in reading and just interaction with certain people who understood the use of words and not abbreviation, and were able to use words to bring us a picture, to show us what is really going on within their words. And for such a talent, some were crucified and some were put in very dark places to rot, perhaps. But that gift of knowing how to paint the picture with words is quite a skill there. And the various authors and orators who can do so. We give thanks as well. And in our modern time, we have our great orators like former President Obama. He has that gift as well. How we say a picture is worth 1,000 words. But in his case, he can give you 1,000 words and you get a picture. So that's the kind of orators we speak about and what we speak about the power of words. And how did we get here? Speak out because we speak a lot. Okay, so this evening we don't have a particular topic that we want to get into, but there's a segment that we do called Story Time, and it's a place where we ask our audience, studio audience, that they will remember something that it was told to them, or something actually happened. You know it to be true. You cannot believe it to be true, however, but it is the truth. It has happened. We'd like you to share that with us in a segment we call Story Time. But what is really amazing is how we would rehearse the stories in our mind, and we would think Sunday is coming and 7 o'clock is coming. And just when we're on the spot, we just don't remember the story. So just to think, that's a story all by itself. So we're here with such a tiny audience. Maybe 1 million viewers is out there listening, but it's happy to know we do have the same link every Sunday as of the last 2 weeks now. So we would like our viewers to press like and subscribe. You know, that little bell can ring off to let you know the show is going on, and we'll be here for you. Because we really enjoy if when we do have our in-house panel that would like to share with us the various views of everybody else. And we do have our guests come on. Some say they were struggling in the background to get in, but I know some people is in the wrong yard. They just went to the wrong house, unfortunately. So I'm asking you people, please get out the neighbor's yard and come home, come over. It's Sadie Sundays, it's your Sundays, and you know what we do on this side. And of course, thanks so much for Charlie, our engineer, who have been with us every Sunday tirelessly, enjoying what we do, and has been the brainchild of this operation. And we know we go at it on Sundays. And as I said, we discuss lightly, we get intake, we have our many viewers who oftentimes join us. But for so far now, it's the holiday. Some people have their families. And of course, in the month of May, which is we celebrated for the women, and we were very happy that it was such a beautiful month, the month of women, the month of the mothers, and that month is slowly slipping away, and we remember Empress Menen Ashwood. We remember all the various Marys of the world, all the mothers who nurture, counsel, and suckle the children along the way. So important are the role of mothers. And believe me, this 26, it's the woman energy that's happening. Even in the Ethiopian World Federation, presently we do have a woman president, and we have a lot of female energy, which is a loving, nurturing energy as well. We thank the males for our support, their strong backbones, but the mothers, at some point when the society has been damaged, you have to run to the mother for her loving, gentle, nurturing care. So the mothers of the world, we salute you. As you know, the month of May is your month, our month, the woman month. And I just had my sister Laurel Gomez celebrating her birthday at the 23rd. So we spent a nice evening. So we celebrated that. So blessed to you and to Miss Donna Gomez if she's listening, and Sister Khadijah if she's here. All my sisters, I give thanks unto my brothers also. Normally our studio would have a little more people in it, but I don't know if the rain kept them out. So Charlie, how we doing? Did we get in our neighbor silos yet?
No, unfortunately, our neighbors are still in that other yard looking over the fence, asking themselves, where is everybody? So I don't know.
He means what? He said he's somewhere in the background, in the backyard. I said, but the
I,
door is open. I don't
I,
know.
I don't know where they're at. Uh, so I mean, we've notified them that that's not where we're at and where to come. But I don't know. But listen, I was listening to you talk,
Yeah.
and you said a couple of things um, that I want to touch on. One, you talked about the assassinations attempts,
Yes.
and I said to my mind said when you said that, what assassination attempts? What assassination attempts? Because they all look like theater to me. They
That's where
all look
you use
like
the commas.
they all look like scripts, performances, to me. So I don't know. Uh, I'm not convinced as of yet. I know a lot of people are, and this is just my opinion. I am not convinced as of yet. None of these assassinations attempts, these events that the media is describing as assassination attempts, do not cut the mustard for me as legitimate attempts. Now that's just me. That's just me. My word don't mean anything. That's just me talking. But it looked kind of fugazi to me. None of those situations are adding up when you begin to examine them and dissect them and take them apart. It all looks scripted, like a performance, like it's theater, like there's acting going on. So perhaps, maybe not.
So, so you dare to say did not even win by an air?
What? That's the biggest fraud of them all.
Oh my gosh, Charlie.
He got a miracle ear. Okay, he got a miracle ear. I'm told that bullet, that particular caliber bullet from that particular gun, I don't know, I'm not a gunman, it's just what I'm told, that it don't even have to touch you to do damage.
Just
If
get close.
it just get close. If it get close, it's gonna cause damage and almost rip your ear off. Okay. So for you to get hit and have 3 drops of blood, okay, it's not adding up. And then walk around for 3 days with a big patch, great big stupid pamper
Plaster.
attached to his ear.
Oh,
There's
Charlie.
no scarring. There's no scar tissue. There's no doctor reports. There's nothing. Okay. So
Not even cosmetic surgery. Huh?
listen, there's nothing. It's all staged. But the whole thing has been staged even from the announcement that he was running. The whole thing, the footage that we see over and over, him coming down the elevator, the escalator, and everybody in the lobby, and he waving and announcing. All of that was staged. All of those was paid actors. So he's a TV guy. This is all one big reality show to him.
Charlie, you are fired.
And what?
You are fired.
Oh,
That's what their friend, you know.
and then here's the other thing. The virus.
Yeah.
I couldn't understand when COVID was going around, right?
Uh-huh.
There were ships like this ship of people, nobody had COVID, but then there's a COVID breakout on the ship. So I would ask myself, how does that happen? Where did it come from? And now you have this scenario again where you have
And the
some
virus,
virus break out
and
on a ship in the middle of the ocean. Where's it coming from? And why did they not quarantine the people to find out? Why would they take them home and put them back in the general population?
well, what I was wondering is how the number was three.
The number was 3.
How much was it? Six?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. And then that's the
Because
other thing. When you say breakout, to me, a breakout, that means a bunch of people got them. You know what I mean? If 3 people got them, that could be people that could be a family, right? Just like the Ebola virus. There was the Ebola epidemic. There was an epidemic, and the news report, and there was like 6 people that had Ebola, right? So, I'm like, why are they? What epidemic? Where's the epidemic? And you showing on the news 6 people. Like, I'm missing something here.
exactly because the number does not add up to the conversation as to what's happening. So it's either you having a spread or you have six people infected.
Right.
Or at what point you going to drop it on us?
Listen, and then here's the thing, right? You're absolutely right. I'm also seeing more and more people starting to put on masks. And I
Yes.
noticed that, like, that's like the 3rd person I saw in this block with a mask on, right? Um, and so we have been so trained, you know, even with these masks. I tell a story about being in the supermarket and being online, and the lady in front of me have on a mask, and she turns around to tell me how nice my cologne smell, right?
You almost contaminated you.
So I'm saying to myself, if you can smell my cologne through this mask, what makes you think COVID or anything else is not getting in that mask, getting up your nose?
Exactly.
And I'm behind you. I'm not even in front of you. I'm behind you.
So how effective is that mask you're wearing?
How effective is the mask?
Oh, Charlie, it was a pickup line.
Oh, that's what you think it was?
You almost got married, didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
Next thing she's bringing dinner.
Listen.
But anyway, before I lose my train of thought, we'll get back to that grocery, Charlie. But I saw something in the TikTok that you couldn't make up a story. Elon Musk's girlfriend, one of them apparently, because he's a stud. You do have to teach her, I believe. She got so upset with him, I guess, this week that she said she's just going to spill the beans of everything he told her, including the fact that he had President Trump got into power. It was wild. But I have to get these videos and send it to you. I said, Charlie would enjoy this piece a lot. I think I saved it. Yeah.
I would, but you know what? I'm kind of tired of these people that's got all of these big secrets that they're gonna let everybody know. And then nothing ever comes from it. You had this girl in Brazil making all these threats, but she had all this information on Melania. And she was gonna expose her and Donald, da 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 da. And nothing has ever come from that.
Do you know why? Do you know why?
I think I know why. because they decided it's better to keep breathing than to let these secrets out. That's what
Well,
I think.
also, Charlie, don't play with the Grim Reaper.
Well, I mean, this is what I'm saying. I
One should
believe
know.
they were threatened, and so they threatened her and then threatened her kid. So I believe I don't know. I didn't hear anything. I'm just speculating, and so uh,
I want to drop something on you, Charlie, because the world did not quite get it, but it was quite comical, serious, subliminal, given by the president of China. Did you see the welcome Mr. T got? A bunch of little children jumping up, 60-year-olds looking just like the Epstein file video.
no, I didn't
That went right over your head, Charlie, because listen, his welcome was
see it. I didn't
you
see
heard
it. I
him
missed
roll
the
out
whole
you
thing.
heard him roll out the red carpet for him, didn't you? And when they roll out the red carpet, on the side, alongside the welcome, was no more than 6 to 7 year old only girls, pretty ones, just jumping up in full excitement, like 60-year-old children. You see how much energy a grand going to have, how she behave with her pretty
Mhm.
self, just jumping around like she's bouncing off a wall. And there
Mhm.
were hundreds of them. And that picture was a subliminal, just as there's a certain part in the files where you see a bunch of children jumping up like in happy time. And you see the
Mhm.
presence of Mr. T there. You ever see that Epstein file? That video?
Mhm. I don't think I've seen that one.
You know, the classic one to play side by side. And look, Mr. China president was just walking around with a smile like the cat that saw the canary. I was like, oops, who did this
I
proof for
know.
me?
I saw the scene where they was walking up the steps, and the Chinese government president had to stop and wait and let Trump catch his breath.
Oh my God. He ate 12 hamburgers.
I don't know what he ate, but he couldn't make it up those stairs. They had to,
Okay.
they had to stop like halfway up and like rest for a second. And you can see Trump just standing there, kind of slumped over, and she's standing around looking at everybody, smiling and stuff. Right?
So polite.
So polite. This is
Oh,
this is America.
I'm saying. And that's the
And
point.
listen, Reverend being this is America. Talk about David Wilcox.
Yes.
Everybody online is talking about David Wilcox right now.
Uh-huh.
He is making more noise right now in his death than he was when he's alive. There's like hundreds of videos that I've seen. Everybody talking about what happened to David Wilcox and why they wanted to get rid of him.
Yeah, it's the why. Because the fact, because we know that suicide stunt didn't rest well with his fans. So now it's just the why, because we know somebody found it very necessary to silence him. But it's the why, because he had a big, much to say on the aliens disclosure. So I was thinking along those terms.
Right, right. And you may be right. You may very well be right. My only thought with that, and I think I had mentioned this to you before, that I believe, and again, this is just my opinion, we could be wrong, that there's so
Mm.
much alien UFO talk, Anunnaki, Nephilim, giants, and all of this talk that's going on now. People are having good, open and honest conversations across the board about big grays, little grays, tall blacks, tall whites, big eyes, and the Galactic Federation. They're having these conversations on a regular basis now, and they're not taboo any longer. So I'm under the opinion that they're about to reveal it.
Yes.
That it's about to come out. You know, and if that is indeed the case, why would uh, that talk be that offensive to them at this time that they would want to remove his voice?
Okay, there's a little something I want to tell you, and you can draw the correlation, Charlie, because you know how this side of town with algorithms, you know how they drop it. Within that same, as we would say, aliens or the beings on the other side, it is good to note that there are either 7 species, whereby you know you have the tall whites, you have the Nordics, you have the lizards, the greys, the insectoids, but then you have a species which will be, I guess, the Anunnaki, which you know you have that dark black velvet skin. And when you start to really wear the order of things, they are the rulers. Could that be something that they're hoping that they could overlook, since they had always to throw niggas in the background, and now that we are seeing that the leading or the head of this terrestrial or beings, they really have the darker skin are the leaders or the higher intelligence. I won't say leaders because it's not like how our world operate, but it operate on intelligence and love. So, you know, the darker skin ones are the ones who run things a bit or of high intelligence. Are you aware that within the species, humans will try to wonder about the racism?
The other species did what?
Now, said imagine among the species, humans watching, they
Oh,
might imagine racism,
right,
since that's what you know. But
right.
I said, are you aware when you're studying certain, you know, speakers and those who have studied the races, the darker melanated ones of high intelligence?
Right. Right.
I said,
Yes. Yes.
so to bring that up, just to reveal aliens, period, a story. But could you believe to accept now that those black velvet ones are more intelligent than the light milk color ones? Yeah. So it come like, could there's class and royalty and rulers among the species. Could you have
Right.
even up to the ones who, the lizards, you know, they are
The
like those.
reptilians.
Yeah, that's what like the royal family. They are not in the high intellectual capacity because they deal really unfair. So they use fear for control. You know, the Anunnakis, our parents, they use intelligence to control. You know, so uh, but we see it play out even today. If we should watch it in real time, you see how it played out because you know.
I mean, I would say this. I would say this. Let me see how I want to say this.
The algorithms might
I
might
don't
hit you.
know even so much of the algorithms, but there seems to be some type of force, some type of energy, some type of entity that thrives and feeds off of negative energy. Okay. Um, I was going to get biblical, but I'll stay away from the Bible on this one. Um,
Okay.
it seemed to feed off of negative energy. So now I would say that. So let's try to go to science. That we live in a dualistic construct, meaning that everything that exists here on this plane has an opposite, right? So
Yeah.
there's right, there's going to be a left. There's good, there's bad, there's positive, there's
Yeah.
negative.
Duality, of course. It
There's
exists in our play.
duality. So you're
Yes.
going to always have uh, a certain level of negativity, um, because we would not have a concept of what positivity is. You follow me? We wouldn't know what good is if we didn't know what bad is, right? We wouldn't have a frame of reference. Everything would just be is, right? But there seem to be forces that thrive off of negative energy. I would say that there's forces that thrive off of chaos. There's forces that thrive off of other people's pain and suffering. And then there's forces that just want to, I call them vampires, that just want to drain your energy. Like they're not sucking blood no more. They suck up your energy. But something about taking that energy from you gives them life. Something about the negativity that we are experiencing now is giving something else life. It is feeding something else. Something else is dining. And it's almost at this point being gluttonous about it. Okay. Where they're just overindulging, which would make me believe that at some point, perhaps in the near future, it'll stop because the jig will be up and this excess of negativity will be gone and away from us because we moved on and almost still here, but in a new paradigm kind of thing.
Yes, Charlie, you're very right about that. And there's two things that particularly you said that is of great importance before we move on. What you're saying now and what you are able to observe, we are waiting for other people to reach that junction of understanding where they can unfold such information the way you have just done it. You have wrapped it up so well that you make it look in a simplicity that everyone should get it. But the painful part about it all is that more than 50% of people at the moment is not able to solve that riddle the way you have done so. It's still a big algebra subject for them where they have to, x plus y equals z, and you have just made it so simple. There is upon the earth at the moment energies that create chaos because they have a need to feed. And when they create chaos, it brings negative energy by which they could feed and be empowered. And this is happening right now, coming from government right down, because it's about energy. And energy has to sustain beings, but in order for them to do so, there must be a feeding process. But how do I siphon this energy out of you? Energy is created in high sensitive ways. Like the one of the greatest energies, really, the most powerful is love. But then we have energies created from, let's say, sex, energies created from fights, energy is created from chaos. But the results is not the same, but the energy. Because when you see, like, for instance, a bunch of school children get in a fight at McDonald's and chairs are pelting left, right, and center, that's a lot of energy, but it's chaotic energy. But as you said, Charlie, there are demons who feed on such energy, the chaotic energy. So they create such a situation. And it is not things that is so far out there we can't learn. The demon is named Azazel. And he creates that sort of chaos. He's the master at creating it. You see a bunch of school children getting into a fight, and before you know it, two cars got damaged because they pelted some stones and broke a windshield, and it was all over the place, And this man was just on his way to work. You have to stop because now you have to go to the police station, chaos. But these situations are created, particularly are created. Ones that could see the situation before could stay out of it. Because you may go to a place and all of a sudden you may be in the grocery and you just tell yourself, you feel a certain energy and you leave. And before you know it, two ladies catch into a fight and pelt some ketchup bottles down the aisle. You're like, wow, good thing I wasn't hanging out here. Oh, you know, in the, so I'm just saying what you say is, it is indeed a fact. But the painful part is so much people have not yet seen it or have it known to be like that.
Right. They don't even, a lot of them don't even realize what's going on.
That's right.
They just recognize the pain and they just ask themselves why me, why now, why is this happening? But it's just a question as a form of speech, and it's not a real question. They haven't really examined it to do anything to protect themselves from that.
No, they haven't. Because again, I would say laziness, because first you have to do your research, to examine, and you have to kind of go back within your whole day. You say, well, wait, how did this happen? And you start to retract your steps. But most people hate research, like things handed to them on a platter. You go to some spiritualist and they look at the crystal ball and they said, okay, this happened because, you didn't do X, Y, and Z. Bring $300, I'll fix it for you. And maybe they feel good with that easy fix. But what has happened if we have to, we functioning as humans right now, we have lost the main essence of our human nature and function, being within the 3D realm. When we lift our vibrations, we realize we have been starving the spiritual part of our being. So that aspect of rediscovering the spiritual part, or the really, who am I or what am I here for really, we would see now that the things that we once interpreted in one way is quite a different way, just as the way you explain it. So rather than you get into a fight in the market, you'd have seen a fight coming on 5 minutes before the fight actually played itself. Because now how things are playing itself within the cycle of things.
You should be able to pick up vibrations.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Even when you're in an area, you should be able to pick up the vibration of what's going on in that area. And the fact of the matter is that you do, but most of the time you're unconscious of it. But if you be conscious of it, what you're picking up, that vibration is telling you, you really ought to leave.
Yes.
Something bad is about to happen.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I don't know what it is. I don't know how, but you need to get off this train, or you need to get on that train. But you have to be tuned into it in order to be able to get these signals, or understand why life is the way that it is, or why we go through the things that we go through.
But you see,
that's
let me just cut you a little while, Charlie. I want to lose this train of thought, but you're in exactly the right direction. As you said something like, we ought to be able to pick up vibration. Yes, because what I have learned along the spiritual realm, the air is really water. And if you think about it long and hard enough, you'll get to where I'm coming from. The air
Absolutely. Yeah.
around us is water. And vibrations, as you get into your physics, it stimulates in water
And
a lot.
water.
Like, so therefore, when we say to ourselves, I feel something in the air, you realize how spiritual connected we are. Because you start, you go a place and the air feels trouble and you leave.
Right.
Then the shit start.
Right. And you leave. You can just tell. Listen, you know what? It's so funny. I used to always could tell when my mother was about to do something and I was doing something I ain't had no business of doing, and if I was gonna get busted. Right? And
You
my
felt
brother
it.
was always just the opposite. And he would always get in trouble and I wouldn't. Because I could pick up on mommy. I used to say, because I could pick up on her. Why can't you? You know, I never forget. I'm old enough to remember the first Black Solidarity Day. You know, they have the Black Solidarity Day here, and all the black kids are off from school. Da 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 da. You don't have to go to school. The school is closed. Da 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 da. My mother wasn't trying to hear none of that. Black whatever. You're gonna take your black behind it at school, and you're gonna learn just like the white kids, right? So she made us go to school, but wasn't nobody in class. We wasn't going to class. So we in the yard playing basketball, me and my brother. And then all of a sudden, I pick up on my mother. I'm like, yo, sometimes, mommy be doing sneaky stuff and she be coming checking on us, man. And I got a feeling they're going to roll up here. I'm going inside.
You took your black by your side.
My brother, yo, you soft, man. You soft. You so scared of mommy. Da, 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 da. Like, whatever. I go inside. Listen, I go inside the school. I walk up the first flight of stairs. They only like about 8 or 9 steps. I turn the second flight about 8 or 9 steps. And, they always got the window there, and I could see back into the yard where I was just playing basketball with my brother and some other kids. And I see my stepfather car parked.
You were taking up those stairs, right?
Right under the basket, right? And I see my mother getting out the car. Right? So, and I used to try to tell them, you just got to pick up on things sometimes, and you got to follow those vibrations. But again, those are little. It's a funny story, I think, a little nuances, but the reality of it is what we see going on now, and everything is by design.
Yes.
Okay. They feed it to us in the news cycles, in the algorithms and stuff by design. So some things I purposely don't look like. Some things I won't look at any Trump news. I won't look at anything going on in the Congress. I won't look at anything like that I believe is going to upset me. And I say to myself, why would you subject yourself to that pain? Okay, just to have it affect your energy, just to get yourself upset and in a tizzy. It's like watching these police brutality videos where the cops are brutalizing people. They hit the algorithm and they come back to back to back to back, and I'm like, why take yourself through that? Why take yourself through that? Why take yourself sit there and get all of these bad feelings and negative feelings and unnecessarily bog yourself down when you could be doing something to lift your energy and make yourself feel better?
Because then, as you said again, there are certain entities that feed on these energies, and these entities, they are not isolated, they live within the bodies of humans. So when you see there are some people who only, that is why we have the optimists and the pessimists. There are some people who only see the dark, negative part of life. However, we try for them not to penetrate us, but I'm sure along the way you have met those who they wake up in the morning, they have a headache. They went to the grocery, they had a problem. By the time they come back home, they have a next problem. They cooking
Right,
food.
right,
You,
right. Problems just follow them. Everywhere they go, there is a problem. And I say to the person, so out of all of these, what's the similarity? What's the common denominator in all of these problems? The common
you,
denominator in all of these problems is you.
yeah. But
Okay.
yet, that's also a problem, Charlie, because they cannot see that.
Unfortunately, most times they can't. Sometimes people have an epiphany, and some people can have an epiphany and say, listen, I'm going to have to change what I'm doing in order to get something better. You know, people, you got to change what you're doing, and you got to believe it. And I just think that it's possible. I just think that it's possible. I think that things work out for me and work out in my favor for one reason alone. I believe they're going to work out for me.
Because the energy you put behind it, again,
Absolutely. So I expect, according to the Bible, according to the laws of nature, according to science, that if I do things a certain way, certain things are going to happen. That's how it happens here on the earth. That's how it happens here on this plane. That's how it happens here in the third dimension. However way you identify the now that you're living in, this is what happens. Now, even in that structure, talk about the negativity, right? We often find in this structure, in the social contract, even within some of our sacred texts, that in order to make things happen here on the third dimension, it requires sacrifice.
yes, I do.
It requires some type of sacrifice. It requires some type of giving up, right? We hear all about the rumors and all about everything that's happening in Hollywood about the sacrifice. They had to give this person up, give that person up, or give up this in order to give up that, and then they become famous beyond belief, rich beyond belief. Da 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 da. I've always had an issue with that particular element of our construct as to why something has to be given up in order for something to happen. In order for me to get what I want, why do I have to give up something to get what I want?
There's a price to pay.
Okay, if we identifying that price, that bounty as the sacrifice, and not as a fair exchange. You understand? So if I'm paying for it, I trust that I'm getting a fair exchange. If I'm sacrificing, it sounds like I'm losing something.
Well, quite opposite to be true, because the thing about it is, when you sacrifice, and you have to, it brings you into another state of being. So the fact about it is not the object that you sacrifice, but the state of being you enter when you have placed your mind in the sacrificial state. That is why the Almighty, if story be true, told Abraham to sacrifice his son. He didn't want them to murder the poor child. He just wanted them to enter that state of being where his spirit could feel more contrite, that he could now be able to function into the real aspect of the thing he wanted to do. So when we say offer to God sacrifice
I'm
in the
sure the
song,
Rams felt good about that redemption.
well,
I'm sure. I'm sure the Ram felt good about that. The one that was stuck in the bush. Oh, now you got a moment of clarity, right?
but the poor lad was like, I didn't even get a girlfriend yet, you know what I'm saying? I did not get a ram or bull or some heifer. If your father loved you so much, would you not accept anything you give him? Now you want to take me out. Didn't get a girlfriend yet.
Wow.
But often to God sacrifice, but the sacrifice is a broken, contrite heart. So it's really a state of mind you go when you sacrifice something because it puts you into that state. It's almost like fasting. When you fast, it's not just because you have no food at your house and you want to people stay hungry. It no matter how you have food in your house, the best time to fast in case you drop down, you have food. But when you fast, you put the mind, the body, and the spirit in a different realm. So you're hungry and you're fasting, but in so of the hunger and the longing, you're able now to go in to the realms where there's the law of attraction and manifest the very thing that you want through the fact that the body was broken. Because now you have entered into different space. That's why you see in the book of Daniel, you say, I, Daniel, you know, was fasting for what? 2 full weeks. I have not eaten no pleasant bread. But then look at the type of visions he had to know what he had to do with it in the interim. So we see, that where we went into that broken contrite heart. So, and that sacrifice, area of sacrifice, is to place our mind and spirit
Right.
within certain
But you know what
achievements.
I've always said about fasting?
Yeah.
Because I grew up in the church. We used to have our 50 days of prayer and fasting. We used to call it our consecration, and we would fast every day for 50 days. But fasting often remind me of a person, and I hope this don't go the wrong way, that may have some type of disability or maybe in a wheelchair, right? Because he's
Uh-huh.
in the wheelchair, he's not using his legs. So he's doing most of everything now with his upper body strength. And he has
Mhm.
unbelievable arm strength because he spent years and years pushing the wheel, right?
Right.
When I say that to say this. When we fast, what we are doing is denying the body and we are denying the molecular structure. And since that body and the molecular structure is being denied, the spirit becomes more prevalent because
Yes.
the intention is now equal or more, right? So we
Right.
feel more spiritual when we're fasting because we're moving more into what we really are as opposed to the personality. And so I preach often that said fasting don't move God, it moves you.
Yes.
It takes
Because
you from point A to point B.
I like what you're saying because the vehicle by which to reach is the fasting. So you are able to climb into a different state to
Right,
reach.
right, right.
But it's your mobility, not you moving God
Well, some things come only
by fasting and
through
prayer.
fasting and prayer. Right.
Because
So
you're then able through fasting to go to the higher realms by which you can now get help because you wish to go to the 13th floor and you realize you have to take the elevator.
Right. And so then what is that? Where does that elevator go? Where is the 13th floor? Right? Where is the secret place of the Most High?
Under the shadows of the Almighty.
Under the shadows of the Almighty. But I often, well, I don't want to say that right now. But where is that? That's a question for everybody. When the scripture talks about the secret place of the Most High, where actually is the secret place of the Most High, especially if it's the secret.
Well, for those who belong to the club, we can simply whisper it in to their ears, can we? Mm. And then you wonder why they have the Bohemian Grove.
I've never wondered why they have the Bohemian Grove. I know why they have the Bohemian Grove.
It's a secret.
Listen, but if you told people really what the secret is, and then they realize, okay, let me put it this way. What if I told you what the secret is, only to find out that it's not a secret and they're doing the same thing you're doing, just in a different name, just in the original names, just in the original ceremonies. All right. But you don't know about them because you're considered common. Right? You're considered common people. And the common people always get a variation of the situation, a variation of the truth, a variation that they could handle.
Basically, you have a slice just waiting for the common people to hand them that. That's what they're getting.
Right. But if you look at the scriptures, there's parts in the scripture where it is recorded that the disciples asked Christ, why do you not tell the people the things that you tell us?
But that's for them to know at this time.
They're not ready to understand it yet.
Yeah.
I'm sharing it with y'all because y'all supposed to be the closest one to me. Y'all supposed to be the insider. I'm sharing everything with you exactly the way it is. I'm trying to tell it to them, but I'm telling it to them in stories. I'm telling it to them in parables, right? So that they can get it and put two and two together and have the epiphany. And be like, oh, yeah. That's what that means.
Yeah, that's amazing.
You know what it would be like? It would be like if 40 years ago, 50 years ago, they came out and told us it was aliens.
Right.
All right. It may have been a shock. But we've had 50 years of preparation. Right? And they come up now, most people be like, where them niggas at? Where they at?
All right.
We want to see one. Listen, they be all over TikTok. People with selfies.
Now, I want us to have a little bit of compassion here because you're speaking to entertaining my 12-year-old inner child. Or was it when I was 8? But that movie, E.T., you know that creature was real. Because Hollywood could have never made nothing up like that could have reached anybody's soul like that. So that creature was real. It took me a good 40 years to find out. He was real. So from the time I saw that movie, I know there was no makeup to create that. And just to find out, yes, you know it was a real creature, right?
I've heard rumors of that.
Yeah. And if
I've
you
never
think
heard
about,
to validate it is just going in one ear out the other. But they also say that the cartoon Family Guy
uh,
is modeled after this same ET that was a real ET that the government had. Right,
uh,
the Family Guy, he's
yeah, but
a
the
Secret
rock
Service guy,
head, yeah,
right? And he's got this ET that lives with him that do all kind of crazy stuff,
yeah, 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 yeah.
right? That reminds me of the movie ET. And I heard again that is modeled after the real ET, that there was a real whatever this entity was.
Well,
This
but,
extraterrestrial.
well, more so a creature because he was living, breathing. He didn't shapeshift. It was his form. It's just that he came from another dimension, and there are in fact humanoid type creatures that could interact with us. But the reason that they stay away really is because they deem humans to be wicked. After all, look at the bombing, how we bombed the earth. 1, 2, 3, we kill 150 people, 1,000 people for no reason. So I think because of kindness, benevolence, they know that I'm not going around those niggas. They surely will kill me. So that's why the interaction is, at a standstill because they have come and seen how we destroy the earth. So they see us as destructive creatures, of course, which we are, most of us. So, but if one fall into our care, which is soon to happen because the government will urge you that they are your friendly neighbors, you should take one in, you know, they would they have to normalize it at some point because they are in fact beings that are here among us and are not waiting to be introduced anymore. They're gonna come forward. And that's how facts.
Yeah, I believe that. I believe that. I believe that. I believe we're going to see. I know this might sound controversial, but I believe we're going to see aliens before we see Jesus in the air.
No,
Okay.
that's not controversial, that's the truth because that's why they had pulling the pastors. I don't know if you ever saw anything coming up on your feed where pastors were asked to come to this meeting, not in New York, but in a place, I think was somewhere far Ohio, somewhere, but pastors from all over the globe, within this region, and to bring the news to ET because there will be no Christ coming down to the Savior, coming down to the sky to save you before that event. So the things going event now. I'm not saying the Savior isn't coming back. There will be the return of Christ, of which we long for our Savior and his return to teach us at some point, but that whole rapture has to wait a little bit. So, that's a disappointment the church will have. They'll think when the aliens come, oh my God, we're going to just rapture and leave town with all the wicked people. But no, the event of the alien event that takes place every 2,800 years, isn't it so? Not every 300 years? They return?
The
Sorry,
return.
3,000. The Anunnaki, every 2,800 years.
Um.
They would visit the
So
planet.
right. So the return is based off of let's say planetary movements, right? Okay, so the return is based on when the planets and the solar systems are in certain positions because they open up highways
Portal?
into open up what do you call it? A portal.
Portal?
Portal, yeah.
So they can
Uh,
come.
perhaps it's a portal type, but I'm picturing it more as a puzzle that you click, you turn around, and then you click the pieces, and then they line up, right? And that alignment is based on astrological movement. That's why the numbers of years matter because that's when the alignment is in place, okay, for the return. So they say that we have dispensations, which are periods of times, and each dispensation lasts. And boy, it's been a long time since I've studied this. Each dispensation has 2,160 years for a dispensation. Okay,
Right.
we just left out of the Pascean dispensation or the Pisces dispensation. Okay, and we're now moving into the Aquarian. We are now in. We are 26 years out of the 2,160 year cycle. We're in year 26. So we're in the beginning of this awakening.
Surely.
We're in the beginning of this awakening, and
Oh,
this is why we're having the conversations that we're having now. This is why we can explain things the way that we can explain them now. It's almost like the Akashic records have been opened up to everyone, and things are starting to make sense, and they're clicking together on its own accord. Because this is the age of Aquarius is the age of information.
yeah, and also to our memories coming back as to who we were.
As to who we were.
That is
Right.
returning.
Because we've forgotten
We have
who we
forgotten.
were. But we're waking up to who we are, and we're realizing who we are. We're having a revelation of our existence. We understanding more now that we are not bodies or people that have souls, but we are souls that have bodies, which is a really, really big difference, because as a soul, as a spirit entity that have a body, you're now operating on a different order. You are now operating on a higher level. If you operating from the body perspective, then you are mandated and stuck here, held here to earth, where the molecular structure comes from. And you know they say, ashes to ashes, dust to dust.
Yeah. Once you came,
Right? So if you don't realize that you are a spirit entity, that you are a divine entity, and you think you're just a body, that's why death is so horrific to us.
yeah,
Because we don't know what we are. We believe we are the image, the reflection in the mirror.
and when that's over, it's painful, but not understanding the fact that it continues because the inner person is who we really are.
It's who we
The
really
shell,
are.
the
So
shell
I
has to
tell
go.
the show goes on. Because if I ask people all the time, listen, if you lost your arm, would you still be you? Of course, the answer comes back yes.
Yeah,
If you lost your leg, would you still be you? Yes. If you lost both of your legs, would you still be you? If you lost your legs, your arms, right, would you still be you? Yes. What if you lost your whole body? Would you still be you? Yes. Would you just be a nobody? Would you still be the divine entity?
at least if you lost
Existing
your
entity.
leg and your arm, maybe a paralytic.
Well, you could be a paralegic too.
But if you lost your body, you're a nobody.
You just know you're just a nobody.
Oh my God.
You still exist.
Yeah.
You may be in another parallel universe, but you continue to go on. And this is one of the things that David Wilcox was pushing, that there is no such thing as death. We have misunderstood death. There is nothing to be afraid of. The worst part about death is for those who stay. for those that are still here, because now you miss the personality. You miss the person, you miss the character, and sometimes you can miss the spirit and the energy of the other person. So now you're at a loss. So since you're at a loss, you're feeling the pain of that loss. But the
That's true.
individual that have left this body, they go on, they continue.
They transcend. Speaking of which, how are we doing on time, Charlie, before I drop something else?
We well, we're not on any particular time schedule, so whenever we're done, we're done. But the time now is 8:43.
Okay. Yeah. What I sort of ask you about time, I just wanted to just throw in a little subject which I want to bring up next week with not a subject but a person. Are you familiar with Darius, right? He has a YouTube. He's a YouTube content creator.
The name sounds vaguely familiar. Is he one of the holistic herb fellas?
No, he speaks about near-death experience and he speaks about afterlife, and he speaks clearly to let you know that there's no such thing as death.
Oh no, I'm
So
not
he,
familiar with him.
yeah,
Darius,
so I
right?
Darius, right? So he has a little piece that he spoke about, just as you said something about David Wilcock traveling into that almost like parallel universe. You know, it's something I want to touch on. That's why I asked you the time, but that will push us all into a whole 3 hours. That's like a subject for one special evening. But Darius, right? WRIGHT, he's Australian, as far as I know. I've been following him now for 2 years, but he's growing profoundly as far as growth. He first got the gift when he was about 14. And he said, he always felt like a stranger and outsider. But now that, we have gravitated more into his world of strange talk, he's out there, telling people about stuff. But he naturally is that spiritualist, that medium who could connect with the both worlds. And interesting character. So I guess, we have a little more time next week. We do something. I want to show you some videos of things that you have said, even in your speech today. So I was thinking, wow, you've been listening to Darius, but you don't even know the character. So you see how things connect when we talk with truth. So we would extend our conversation again next week because the time is coming up on us as far as, and funny, we could talk for close to 2 hours. And we didn't have our brother with us today. He tried to get on, but we don't know what happened. He was at somebody else's backyard, and we hope the dog went back to us today because sometimes we go in the rock backyard, the dogs come out, roof, roof. So, and for the others who didn't make it on, it's the holidays and you spend time with family, but we are your family too. And Charlie, as we say, it was just you and me, kid. So we did it. And we want to ask you to join us next week, Sunday at the same time, 7 p.m. Eastern. And our link is the same, but we would remind you as the time go along. And thank each and everyone who's listening out there to the YouTube channel. You're our family too. And we ask you to join us again as we say good night. We hope you really enjoy our show. And we are saying good night to our audience. Charlie, take us out.
And may I say that be praised to whom all praise our due is the Ethiopian World Federation Incorporated Women Auxiliary presents Empress Sadi Saunders.